Okay, so the next one we're doing is dry on wet, and I said this is a good one too because for clouds or bushes or things in the background that you want to look a bit softer in your painting. The brush work going on top is still going to be really soft, except this time your color is going to be more saturated because we're using dry paint, meaning paint straight out of the tube, as opposed to watered down, okay? So I'm gonna wet my background. Again, your background can have a tint to it. You can add some color to your background, or you can just leave your background white and just dampen it with some water. Here we're testing out again, how does dry paint look when it hits a wet surface? So I'm just gonna go ahead and moisten my background with some water. You don't want it soaking wet, but you want the paper to feel like it's fully saturated. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and take a dry brush. So switch your brush to a completely dry brush or just wipe this one off and make sure it's good and dry. No waters on it. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is, I'm actually gonna grab another brush to make sure it's super dry. This time we're gonna be adding some paint, again, straight from the tube. So you can put it on your palette, but don't mix any water into it. Okay, and we're gonna see what happens when we touch a wet surface with some dry paint. You'll notice because the bottom is still wet, it's almost like mixing the paint on the surface of your paper. You can still get it to be lighter when you move it around on the paper. And you can kind of control which areas have more pigment or less pigment. I'm just doing like a fluffy cloud effect where the back of the cloud is a little bit paler. Maybe do one more up here. Okay, and again, I'm gonna reach for some more dry paint. And then I'm just gonna build up darker areas in here while it's still damp. So you can have something like this, like a cloud fade. Go darker to lighter in the background. Right, so the point is that when you have a wet background and you're putting dry paint on top, it's almost like mixing the pigment on your palette, except you're doing it straight on your painting, so you control areas that you want to stay very saturated, but your edges will still bleed out and become really soft in the background. So we did one yesterday, this one's fully dry. Okay, again, this was our dry paint on a wet surface. And then we tried to create kind of the same cloud effect using dry paint on a dry surface. So you could tell the difference there. Look at that nice, soft bleed out. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry. Again, this is dry paint on a wet surface. Next, we're gonna try dry on dry. Okay, again, so nice blurred out edges.